Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
The common sense end of the game.
Yeah.
Munchausen's is spot on. But even when I was a Glober, right, I wasn't like this. I didn't talk like they talk. I didn't act like they acted. If somebody had something to tell me, I'd be like, cool, what you got?
Not me. My brother told me, I literally berated him for weeks while I looked into it. I don't know. I think it's just inbred that when you are a Glober, when you're first presented with it, unless you're Nathan, and you just wake up and say, oh, Earth is flat. Wasn't like that for me. Took me a few weeks.
That's the thing, though, bro. I was working on writing a grant for business. I was going into competition with NASA. That's what I'm saying. I was further into this than a lot of people that were Globers, and I still didn't fight.
Yeah, I did. I made fun of him. Yeah, one time at work, I remember in front of all his workers. 'Cause I did the whole thing. Yeah, what about NASA? What about satellites? I was hitting him with everything, because I was ignorant to it until I couldn't validate the globe anymore. Then I was like, oh, shoot, Earth is flat.
Yeah. Last night, this morning, there was somebody put up a video. They're like, here you go, you dumb flat earthers. This proves you completely wrong. And they have a video of the sun being shown 24 hours. And then someone points out, hey, you idiot, your camera shows a location and that base is up by the North Pole. And everyone's just like clowning him, like, you're a stupid idiot. He's like, actually, that proves the flat earth. You're showing us a 24-hour clock at the North Pole. I was like, damn, that guy just looks stupid.
Yeah, I bought into the Mickelson-Morley, too. You buy into everything at first until you get to the flat earth debate and you run into guys like Nathan Oakley and Quantum Eraser and Sleeping Warrior. Then you start to learn and you start to understand the arguments. These guys are outstanding teachers of reality.
Sometimes I wish you guys would come more often into the chats, into the text, or sometimes even here in voice chat, because a lot of characters that they won't come on Nathan's show, but they definitely show up in the voice chat. last night there was like 3 or 4 of them. Just all,
when it's not on the air and nobody hears them but you guys, that's when they come on. If they got a pair of balls, they'll come on now, but they don't.
yeah. I told him, I said, man, I'd love to hear you get, I'd love to hear you ask that or discuss that with Nathan or something like that. And he was like, I won't go on that show. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
you know
don't
what?
let me tell you why. Because Nathan's rude, right? He doesn't let arguments be heard, right? They got all the same nonsense.
Yeah, it's just because he shuts them down. That's why
Neil,
he shuts
do
down
those
their
pair
nonsense.
Neil, do those pair of balls need 2 R's?
Excuse my language. I'm upset, man. Alabama lost last night. We lost the national title. I'm sick to my stomach.
They got 7 of them. They haven't. They lost their best players too. So.
I know. It was crazy. First quarter over. I kept telling everybody it's over, man. You don't understand. Alabama's playing with rookies on offense, rookies on defense. This game is going to be over.
Yeah, they
And I
can't
was right.
block. Offense can't block it all. Anyway,
Plus, the game plan was terrible, Tent. They should have just kept running the ball. They
I
kept
know.
trying to throw the ball with rookie receivers. Anyway, let's talk about Flat Earth. What do you got, Tent? Cheer me up.
More than flat. What do you mean? What do I got? I got
You
reality.
usually got slides and stuff.
Oh, I got slides.
There you go.
I mean, Nathan's probably making coffee, so
Ah, man, I'm
or
good.
push.
I'm good.
Oh, I was going to say or pushing buttons.
I was going to say the same thing. Probably push the buttons.
I love it. That line will never die. You really, that got under your skin there. The amount of work you do, and then I just say pushing buttons.
It was the way you
I
said
miss
it. You went, come on, you just got to push a button.
I know, it's just classic. I mean, just for me to put out a video takes a long time. I imagine Nathan.
And I'm laughing because literally that's all I have to do is push a button and I'm on the show.
Well, that's classic. We have a lot of fun. Yeah, I'll put up a couple of slides just so people could be reminded of what's going on. Let me see. We'll do this one.
the irony of this week, right? So far, I've already destroyed their spherical trig argument, and all I did was ask one question.
I like to hear it.
Well, I started it off being kind, so I asked him what the triangle was that he's allegedly using, right? It's the Rouleau's triangle. So then I asked him, where in reality do we use that? And that was the end of it. They all stopped talking.
Please tell us what the Rouleau's triangle limits or expands its use versus a normal triangle. Give us a contrast.
Well, the Rouleau's triangle has all 3 sides that meet from point A to point B, point C to point B to point C, and point C to point A are all bent, curved lines. The difference between
Yes.
that and the real one is, well, they're bent.
Yes, that's
Fine.
their
Straight lines.
that's their spherical triangle that they try to keep pushing on everybody.
Right.
Then it's
Yeah,
not
hold on
a
a second.
triangle.
You can't
Right.
calculate using curved triangles. You can't calculate.
Exactly.
I mean, you would have to use straight lines. That's insane.
Well, that's why the
Saying a
housekeeping
triangle
question.
has curves.
That's why the housekeeping question's phrased the way it is, right? How do you get an elevation angle from a curved adjacent? Answer: you don't.
Yes. Exactly. It's no longer a triangle.
Right. But that's their biggest thing to try and get over, right? They want to go to the advanced parts of spherical trig and use shapes that we don't use. We don't use this shit in targeting or anything.
But you still need straight lines to calculate with any kind of shape. You know,
Well,
if you're
try
going
and get
to put an angle.
Where in reality do you use rule-loose triangles to triangulate? Boom.
Well, we can rename it. When they use the wrong triangle, we can say it's a you lose triangle rather than rule loose.
Wow. Yeah. I'm probably
remember when
saying it kind of wrong.
it
Well,
doesn't matter. That would be majoring on the minors to even point that out at this point. But I remember when this tenth started doing the sextant argument, like they were saying, don't say 90, and tenth invented this formula, and all, like he invented, like he's Pythagoras, you know. They're saying that he invented it. They're slowly losing their minds.
Oh, the math is actually, it's been there for quite.
You're breaking up.
The Jesuits were the ones trickle feeding all the advanced math down.
Okay, you're breaking up again. 10th, I've got your first slide up. How does the sun produce this in one single place in the world? If the sun illuminates the Earth like this, then it's got a picture of a giant sun, obviously not to scale or not to the heliocentric scale, lighting half the world with a Terminator line versus divergent sun rays coming through a cloud.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that the luminaries are vast, vast distances away, that the light is coming in parallel, which they need, like we need oxygen to breathe for their globe to stay alive, their globe model, that is, because they're fictitiously taking the measurement from the center of the Earth and saying that, well, you can draw a local plane on the surface where it's curved and you can have a corresponding angle. Well, first of all, you're not taking it from the center of the Earth. You're taking it from the surface of the Earth, and you're using an angle measuring device called the sextant, and you need straight lines. So let's get that out of the way real quick. But if you're going to go into your fairy tale and try to keep your globe model alive, you're going to need sunlight rays, as they call it, to come in parallel. Well, we know that we've never seen any sunlight parallel on this Earth. We always see it diverging. Well, if it came in parallel, it would be that bottom half of the picture. It'd be like one beam, so wide, and everything would just be the one beam. But look at the picture above. That's the way it comes in all the time. I've got many pictures I took up in the desert before the new year, and I caught some beautiful divergent rays as the sun was rising in the morning or coming towards us. Let's put it that way, because that's what it's doing. And I have never seen parallel rays. It's always diverging. So how in the world are these zombies still accepting this model that sunlight is coming in parallel? That could be so easily debunked. Just go out there where there's some clouds in the sky and watch it. I mean, it's nonsense.
Well, at this
Hey,
point,
Go ahead.
I had Neil first. Go ahead, Neil.
I was going to say, my wife was showing me yesterday, speaking about the sun, that China has created an artificial sun that burns 7 times hotter than the real sun.
Sorry, this is something you saw on TV, right?
Yeah, she was showing me a TikTok video. That's what I said. I don't even know if that's real.
make a lot of assumptions about the sun when you said that, didn't you?
That's true
Well,
too.
not me. They did. I'm just telling you what they were saying. That's what I said. How do they know how hot the sun is burning, first of all?
Let's not shoot the reporter.
On the parallel thing, even if, like, at this point you could give them parallel, but to measure an angle to that light, you require a flat plane.
Well, you're measuring it on
So
Earth.
even if,
Of course it's flat. Where's Wally?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But so, like, even if you did measure it parallel, right, it wouldn't matter. You still need a flat plane to measure an angle. So it wouldn't even matter at that point. If it's coming in at 90 degrees, it still require a flat plane.
No, it doesn't matter because obviously you've eloquently said it right there. But the fact is that they keep lying and lying about things to keep the first lie going. And if the first lie is you're doing it from the center, then you're going to need sunlight coming in parallel. Well, neither is true, is my point.
Yeah, it's dead on arrival, as John says. You're right, because they will try and take it to there. So it's easy to say, no, you stop it when they measure the flat plane. True. But that doesn't stop them trying to move forward, does it? So you still need to understand that. They need light rays to come in parallel. They haven't got an R value. They're making a presupposition that they're not measuring. You can highlight all those things when they desperately try and move on to the assumption after the flat plane measurement to get an angle.
Well, even
like Charles.
Well, even Neil deGrasse Tyson says if the sun, and this is Neil deGrasse Tyson talking. That Eratosthenes, that shadow could be cast by a closer sun on a flat Earth. He said that. Of course, he's never going to agree with how sextant works because he's doomed immediately.
He still hasn't answered my question either.
Well, he doesn't respond to email on top of that.
He couldn't measure an angle from the shadows unless the Earth was flat.
Correct. Couldn't get the angle measurement unless he's using an elevation angle and he's got a flat plane beneath his feet. So, again, dead on arrival. Any time you hear the word angle, ever, you can end the argument right there.
I'll get you a
That's
picture.
right.
I'll get you a picture now of how they do the tricks. The trick. I'll be back.
Cool.
Yeah,
I love it in the comments. You just scan read through, and when you see the word angle or degrees attributed to a number, just ignore everything else. Yeah, you're going to need a flat plane for that angle measurement. Everything else is irrelevant.
I like that DOA, though. Dead on arrival.
Well, as soon as they start measuring a flat plane, well, aren't you supposed to have a curved adjacent? Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that whole artificial sun was actually in a building, but they used like a rocket that was being launched a while back as the video, but everyone's like they're made that video go viral saying it's the artificial sun being launched into the sky. Totally false. But I also wanted to remind you that they also said they landed on the moon not too long ago, and that was completely fake. So go figure, it's China.
Well, that's why I said to him, you saw this on TV.
Yeah.
Obviously, we wouldn't be discussing this, just to give Neil props in case he takes offence, because he does often. We wouldn't be discussing this had Neil not brought it up.
Right. I immediately looked it up when I saw. I think I know what video you're talking about. I saw it on TikTok last night.
Have you got a pillow between you and your microphone by any chance?
I'm sorry, was that? I have it on my ear. Can you hear better?
That's better. It just sounded like you were talking through a pillow.
Okay.
Talks to his ear.
Yeah, mouth.
Yeah,
Use your mouth.
Yeah, it's in my ear. But I was gonna say, I looked into it like immediately, and then I watched where the story came from. It's this machine they built in like a building, and then we looked into that rocket, and then everyone was saying like I forgot what rocket they launched last year or 2 years ago, some time ago. But that's what went viral. So you know the way internet is.
Presumably it's got a claim hinging on sky vacuums then, right? Am I wrong?
Honestly, I don't know what they're claiming.
Where's the rocket going?
My wife just sent it. I'm trying to send it to Master B, the video, but I'm having a hard time. I'll let you know when it's there.
It goes up in the air and then the video stops. It goes up into the sky, and then like it's nighttime at first, and then it shoots off and it lights up the whole. It looks like daytime, but it's a rocket that was launched another time. It's an older rocket launch that they made go viral. Them actually doing this is actually inside like a facility. Like they have the whole um, thing that they built like they did a news story on it and showed them like putting it together and stuff and how it works, and like it's just in the ground using nuclear fusion power or whatever, and it sits in one place in a building, and they turned it on and it got extremely hot. I mean, so they say. Again, they also said they landed on the moon not too long ago, and that was fake. So
Okay.
who knows if they're telling the truth?
They're doing something. It just could be anything, right?
All right,
Yeah.
I got those slides in Master B with Carl Sagan.
Oh, okay.
Which one do you have first? That's awkward one, or
Yeah, that's awkward.
yeah. So it's so funny, especially for our audience who knows what we're talking about. So he has to bend the cardboard replication of the Earth's surface to say this is what's happening. He has to bend it to make the shadow different. But then he's also pushing parallel sun rays at the same time. And again, you can't measure an angle without a baseline that's straight, and it won't work with a curve adjacent. So we already know that. So if you go to the next slide, it shows him bending that piece of cardboard with the two, the well and the tower in Alexandria, and saying, "See, this is the surface we live on," because you can see the shadow from the two things sticking up on the cardboard change, because he's bending it. But the minute he bends it, you can't measure any angles. Okay, and then the next one is a picture of supposedly Eratosthenes and the globe behind him, and you can see the parallel sun rays that don't happen, and how they try to say in a circle you get it from the center, but they're trying to say the circle is a sphere. The next picture shows a close-up of the cardboard and Carl Sagan manipulating it here, followed up with another image of what they're saying Eratosthenes proved, parallel sun rays and cyan and Alexandria, which is a joke. Okay, the next picture is just a little bit better picture of the two things that Carl Sagan has representing the well and the stick over there in Alexandria, where you can see the shadow is directly under the stick on both of them because he hasn't bent the cardboard yet. So that's the trick.
I think these are heliocentric stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. I don't even know these people existed.
That's exactly what they are.
Well, it's obvious there's many parts of the story that make you laugh today, like how did he communicate? And they even say it's 500 miles away from Cyan to Alexandria. So how did they communicate at that precise moment of the vernal equinox? Did they have walkie-talkies?
I think
I was just saying that, walkie-talkie.
Yeah,
Tony were chatting about this the other night because he was looking into this, and it's interesting. If you look at the Wikipedia entries now, they've reified him. It definitely is the same Eratosthenes that's linked to the library at Alexandria. That was never the case. Yet now it's being touted as if that's fact. It was only a very vague assumption it's that person, but no any actual proof. And when you think that these things are put together in the 1400s, 1500s anyway, these stories, they've not come from antiquity, these stories, they've come from the Middle Ages. That's what you actually see is a mismatch in there, or a matching of names with a dubious as to whether it was ever performed. This isn't stated anywhere in history. It's cited later, I'd say 1500s onwards, as one of the reasons that the ancients used to believe it was done by this person. And on analysis, you can see the nonsensical nature of it. But yeah, interesting that they're now, it's almost as if that's definitely the same Eratosthenes, whereas certainly from my early research, it was never demonstrable that it's the same person. It just happened.
Well, that's due to our flat Earth work here. We're beating down the doors.
Hey,
So,
Nathan.
Yes.
Adam,
Hey, Nathan. I was gonna tell you just real quick, guys. I don't know if this is like for everybody or just my algorithm on YouTube, but they really stopped putting you on my timeline, and I'm subscribed to you and everything. I want to say 2.5 to 3 years ago. That's even how I found this Discord, was being led to it through your video popping up on my timeline. I don't know how or why. I must have been looking at Flat Earth and you were on there. And then I got into the Nathan Oakley show 2, 3 years ago. So now I went right now to see your live stream of YouTube. I know you're not streaming yet, I guess, but I nowhere on my timeline I couldn't find you. I literally had to go to my subscription of you to pull up your videos. It's really weird. Are you getting that from your
Yeah, I'm well aware of
subscribers?
that. Yes, I'm aware.
Wow, that's really fucked up. Well, take that as a you're doing something right when they're doing that to you.
Yeah, don't
So,
remind me. As much as I appreciate the sentiment in terms of put your flat Earth hat on and go, wow, look how well I'm doing. They must censor me. But first and foremost, I'm a YouTuber, so I want the channel to grow and I want to earn a living from it because that is what I do for a living.
that's true.
So from that point of view, that's very disappointing because all I want is to grow as any other YouTuber does. But being in a category that's considered fringe, and that's not title based either, it must be sophisticated in terms of how they figure out who's what, unless they've just literally got somebody manually assigning these channels with certain flags. Because if you stick Flat Earth in your title, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be categorised as fringe. Because obviously anti-Flat
Correct.
Earthers stick Flat Earth in their title all day long, right? And they get
Yeah,
plenty of
you can
promotion.
debate Flat Earth, which is what pops up. If you type in Flat Earth, all you get is how
Anti-Flat Earth.
how
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Again, I'm aware.
exactly.
Yeah, all you get if you type in Flat Earth is our opponents, who will get, what's the word? I don't want to say promoted, but displayed when you do a search. That's what you'll get, our opponents, and basically nothing else. Unless you
Yeah.
scroll down for 3 days, then you'll find us.
Right.
Well, they said they got to
Yeah.
shut us down. They got to flatten the curve, you know?
Nathan, I got one more slide to finish up the lesson today.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so on this image, of course, from their sites, shows the sun way off, away from the ball or the circle here. Parallel to actual horizon is your eye height. Obviously, this would work with a bubble sextant or an artificial horizon here. And then they've got the dotted line as the actual horizon, where you make dip correction if you're using the natural sea horizon, which is the only dip correction you do if you use the actual horizon. You can see that dotted line is the flat surface that the sextant uses for baseline zero. Then they got that mathematical geometric horizon coming on an angle, which is a joke. Dip correction is eye level with the sea. This is so great. This is from them. And I know Adam, for a long time, was, as all of us probably, under the impression that dip meant something else. But as we tore into the sextant manuals and books written about sextant usage, dip correction is eye level with the sea. I want Adam to respond because I remember when he first said, wait a minute, is that what dip is? Because all along, and I'll hand it to Adam.
I like that picture. Kind of makes the point I've been trying to say. That's how I understand the maths in terms of what they're claiming, but actually that works quite nice for you to understand it on a flat plane as well. It does for me anyway. So I like that because it shows you what's happening. Forget the ball underneath, just take the dotted line as you see, and you can see that there is going to be that variance from what the height of the eye does as you line up to that off to infinity horizon. You see that summarizes it very nicely as to what you're actually doing, and using the maths that you see in the tables, it kind of describes it. Like I said, just with the dot, if you can see that maybe that line B is just down a little bit instead of parallel. So you've got to adjust because of your height of eye. You know how much it's going to pervert your result, and then that brings it back up so that B is parallel to the C.
Thank you for the care package, Adam.
Oh, did you get it, mate?
Yeah, just.
Oh, brilliant. Just for the kids, just to fill the box.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Hello.
Hey, you didn't get what I sent you yet either, huh?
You said you sent me a super chat, but like a lot of super chats, it's obviously rolled by when I wasn't watching because I didn't know you'd sent me a super chat. Thank you very much, though.
No, I don't care about that. I want to know if you got it. Did you get it in your hands yet? How does that work?
No,
Oh,
no,
when you
that takes a while.
Yeah, that takes a while. But thank you very much.
Yeah, Neil, you donated like in the middle of the night during a late premiere, so Nathan wasn't up then.
I probably was asleep.
No, is it?
But nice to know you're smashing the super chat when I'm not even monitoring the chat. I just had too few shows out over the weekend. I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of editing and released quite a lot of videos. But I like to put those videos in my they're not assigned, but what I've assigned myself as my time slots. And that's what I did. But then I'm like, okay, I'm now missing one show, so I need to slot it in. So I just chucked it out at like 1 in the morning when I realised. I'm like, wow, now's as good a time as any. So I just chucked it out at 1 in the morning. So obviously that's the show that you smashed the super chat.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to do the PayPal. I wanted to get it to you before Christmas, but if you remember, I was waiting for that guy to pay me. So anyway.
You don't have to do that, Neil. You really don't.
To your
But thank you
benefit.
very much. You contribute to the show, Neil, so time is more precious than money in every respect. So the fact that you give up your time on a daily basis, that's worth something, a lot.
Yeah, you just got to, I think, realise that you're quite well liked, really. And when you went through that, there was a lot of people.
Easy now.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted to give the Oakleys a hug. Maybe not just you, not you. But
I thought you were talking about Neil. Oh, me. Yeah, I know I'm well liked.
Yeah. Brilliant, pal. Yeah, I love it. On that, we should have a chat off air some point.
Definitely, yeah. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Chocolate Sayin, Arwin, the Adam Meakin, Brian's Logic, Neil, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. And Neil.
Nice one.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Very
hello.
sad, Neil. Alabama lost.
Afternoon. Yo.
Afternoon, guys.
Got a full house.
We have got a full house. Busy show. Should we get some love from Discord? See if they're going to participate in the housekeeping. Hello, Discord. Don't be shy now. We're live.
Hey, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Excellent. Good to have you all.
Morning.
As we were discussing it just before we started, any evidence that you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
No, not even from Cyan to Alexandria. It's impossible.
Not even from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He still hasn't answered me.
Well, you said curved adjacent, and then you said angle. That seems to be a problem.
Yeah, it is.
Because angles seem to be made of straight lines. I don't think the Globers think that their lines are supposed to be straight until they actually have to use them to measure, and then it's straight, and then they just presuppose that it's the straight line they measured is a curve. So if that makes sense, then I got a bridge to sell you.
Chocolate. You haven't heard about the you-lose triangle?
I was just going to ask him.
The what?
It's someone came on in the
Pronounced.
show. It's called a.
It's pronounced you lose.
That's
you
right.
lose.
That's right. That's my pun. You lose triangle. Whenever they bring up spherical trigonometry, you say that's a you lose triangle. How do you get an angle measurement from that?
If you remember in Lethal Weapon, after Mel Gibson beats Mr. Joshua, that's what he says. You lose.
Alrighty then. It's important to stress this though.
I know, that's what I was going to say. Let's get serious on it. So they show a spherical triangle in all their drawings. The problem is the sextant can't work nor give you that.
If you can get your head around this argument as an audience member on the flat earth side of this discussion, know this. The moment you see your opponent on anti-flat earth or globe side claiming that they're measuring an angle to anything that's related to the ground, then they are utilising a flat plane when they do so. So if you see 1 degree every 69 miles, it's 75 degrees XYZ off the horizon, whatever they're claiming with a degree afterwards, an angle measurement, that can only be done on a flat plane. So that's what they do. They measure the angle on a flat plane and then go forth to assume that the angle they measured on a flat plane is now bending after they've got their measurement of an angle. So understand the argument, and then, like I say, anytime you see the word angle or a degree measurement with a number, you can say you're going to need a flat plane for that, and then laugh in their faces. This is by far and away the best argument to get to grips with and understand, to debate with, if you want to prove Earth is flat. Because all the other arguments have complex rebuttals that require you understand their argument inside out and back to front before you move forward, because if you're challenged, you've got to know your stuff. Yes, it's all well and good knowing that if the Earth's a sphere, radius 3959, every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Black swan's beyond it, therefore Earth's not a sphere and the horizon's not an Earth curve. If they then come back and say, well, the horizon's refracted, and you don't appreciate that that's actually a concession where they lose their argument, you just go, well, no, it can't be refracted because blah, 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 I don't understand this argument. Then you're going to lose, even though you've got the winning argument. With this, your opponent will and must declare their use of a flat plane before they do a damn thing. You've won before you start moving forward, because they can't assume a sphere. They've got to make a measurement off a flat plane. Their elevation angle proves Earth's flat. So understand this argument, if you're an audience member, more so than I've ever said it. Obviously we've said good to get to grips with things like the black swan, but typically we're pointing that or charging that at anti-flat earthers. Know your own model, know where it fails, know where refraction leaves you with no geometry. That's directed at anti-flat earthers. In this case, this call out is to flat earthers. If you're slightly doubtful in your understanding of the nature of reality and you're finding yourself fighting your cause, getting angry about it and trying to convert people, I'm not talking about Neil, just you in audience members in general, right? Then understand this very argument. This is the argument to get to grips with. Don't worry about the sextant necessarily. All the sextant is a glorified angle measuring device. It's a glorified protractor. So you don't need to understand the sextant and how it's used to navigate or acquire GPs and radii and areas of equal altitude. You don't need to know any of that. All you need to know is if you're measuring an angle, you will be doing that on a flat plane.
Time for the 3 questions, Nathan. Role play?
Yeah, do you want to take it away?
Hold on, but you forgot the main part that makes them dead on arrival.
Well, when they measure, I didn't forget it. When they measure any angle on the surface, they're measuring it flat.
Yeah. All right. Question number 1. Our
So-
sextant. Go on, Chocolate.
Sorry, man. Now, I was just gonna say, I was waiting for Nathan to finish, but like, I'm glad he ended it off with surface. Well, if you take this argument far enough, they'll start telling you how the surface that they measured has nothing to do with the surface. That's how bass backwards they are right now. That's how dead in the water they are.
Or because they're going to be measuring a flat plane first, they'll argue and lie about their need for R when they're assuming the Earth's a sphere, because they've got to relinquish it in the first instance to measure the angle. So they want to start denying it before they go forward to assume it, which is epic. So in this argument, literally, the first rebuttal we get is, I don't assume R. I don't think the Earth's a sphere. That's what we're getting as a rebuttal. It's essentially them saying, no, I will relinquish my globe faith, albeit temporarily, so that I can measure this damn angle and move forward and then beg the question of a sphere. But for now, no R, I don't need it, I'm not assuming it. Well, what are you doing? Measuring a flat plane, by any chance? Yes, you are. You've won at that point. They're telling you they don't need R, they're telling you they're not assuming R, they're telling you haven't got a spherical surface beneath your feet, it's flat. This is our opponents telling us this. It's brilliant, it's the best argument ever.
Oh, that was pretty good, Chocolate. And that was a good summary, Nathan. So they measured the first surface flat, and then they said, we don't need that surface to measure a surface, which is the second surface that they can't measure because it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right,
so
well, here are
these
the three
questions. Indeed.
All right, Nathan.
Whoa.
Oh, gosh, we'll never get there. Go
I
on.
know, but it is the good point that you make, and I just want to reaffirm it again. When they do that, this is where the black swan comes in, because that dip angle is the thing that demonstrates to them, as I just discussed how it's working. It demonstrates that the thing they're taking the angle from is a flat plane. That's what the dip angle suggests. So it's validated in how it works, yeah. And when they took the sextant trap with regards to what the dip angle is, because as soon as they do try to turn that horizon into the edge of a ball, they lose that way as well. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter which they do, but trying to pretend that dotted line in their world is just a tangent is absolutely fine in my book, because it takes them to reify the horizon as the leading edge of a ball if they do that. Other than that, you are taking the dip horizon for what it is, which is to create a parallel to the surface.
Yeah. In other words, even if they try and correct and claim that the correction that's known as dip, which is your height of eye correction above sea level in actual reality, if they claim that's actually dip to this geometric tangent point horizon that they claim, black swan, we've debunked it. They don't have a straight line anymore. So to say, well, no, I will assume dip is to my straight line, geometric, physical sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. No, you won't. Did you forget that you told us this line was refracted for 2 straight years? Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. Yeah? Horizon beyond the geometric limitations. And even if we let you have it then, as a bent line that isn't a tangent, the very argument you're trying to make in this regard for dip correction, what are you doing with it thereafter? You're making it a flat plane. Correcting to do what? Well, correcting it to make it flat as possible, so I can make this angle measurement. So it's like, even if you let them beg the question, they've still got to make it flat.
In their head, they do that to turn it into a tangent sat on the top of the ball. But that's my point. Their own cognition will let them do that. But in doing so, the implication is you reify the horizon as the edge. It's the only way you can have the thing. If you're going to turn that into a tangent and live on a ball, then in doing so, the horizon has to be the leading edge of the ball. And
And it
The answer-
isn't. I'll just round out before
Yeah,
10th asks the question. So we've only got one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator in Muppet Vision, a la the one on screen now, is geometric. And we've debunked that with the black swan. Right, 3 questions. Nobody interrupt, please. We've had enough. 10th, go ahead.
Okay. All right, and then I want to follow up on Adam after we're done. Nathan, are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects?
Yes.
Number 2, are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Yes.
Number 3, can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
Oh no 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 no.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
So what about that Earth curve? Any evidence of Earth curve? That's a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Hell no.
Black Swan?
Unless any
Darwin.
Globers in Discord think it's like no Atmo Day, and maybe we could see that geometric horizon. Is that the case today? What day is it today? Is it a geometric horizon day where we can see it, or no? Globers.
It's a good point to bring up this next slide I'm sending you, Nathan, on the previous point that will help this question as well.
Yeah, just to speak to Chocolate's point so it doesn't get lost, I'm bringing up your slide, and while I am, I'm going to say, yeah. What is it, no Atmo Day? Straight line to the geometric horizon we debunked with the Black Swan. No, it's definitely not no Atmo Day in your sphere world. Always atmosphere. Never no Atmo Day. Right on, Chocolate. The slide with the plane and the bubble sextants up.
Yeah, the sextant trap, as Adam knows, and Mitchell, and we said it for them, and you knew too, because we discussed it with you as well. They fell for it hook, line, and sinker because when you're doing air navigation, they're using a bubble sextant where they need a horizontal, and the only thing that gives them a horizontal is a bubble, as you see there, and they need that flat baseline that bubble gives them, and it's a horizontal to the eye line. Obviously, in the previous picture, the one that you showed the dotted line, if you can go to that, because I'm going to make a connection here. So this horizontal level using a bubble does not need dip correction. But when you're on the surface of the Earth and you still need that horizontal level, they don't advise using a bubble sextant at sea because the boat is moving around. So you got to use the horizon, and the dip correction, as it says here, is eye level with the sea. So you need to get your eye level to the sea. So if you use your sextant off a 14-foot position above sea level, say on a medium-sized sailboat, it could be 9 feet if it's a small sailboat, but it's the water line to where your feet are, and then from where your feet are to where your eyes are. You got to measure that whole distance, and you've got to subtract that so that you could get a baseline. Why? Because you need that horizontal. As you can see there in the picture, the straight line, how do you get that if you're at sea? Well, you have to do dip correction and make sure that sea level does show up as sea level so that you have a true horizontal. It's 2 straight lines there, as you can see. And then on the bubble sextant, you don't use the sea horizon. You use a bubble, which tells you flat baseline is all you need. This is a killer right here, to dip or not to dip.
Perfect. Thank you, 10th. Should we move on with the housekeeping? Everyone cool with that? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Go and gone shopping.
That wasn't the question for sure.
I'll fill in then. It's over there. Although,
Is it? Not for me.
no, I can't see it at the moment, no.
Over yonder.
No distance to an apparent object.
And
The side of the argument that says they know the distance needs an R, and they don't have it.
Well, as you've brought it up, any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
Black Swan.
it's only in the math. They've never seen it. They say you need no Atmo day to see it. So then how did they ever measure it? It's all a thought experiment. It was never real.
That's why chocolate just whispered Black
Well-
Swan. So what 10th explained was why chocolate whispered Black Swan. If you're going to measure geometry, as per their descriptions that they use when they claim that they've got a dip from a sphere, well, that correction is a straight line, tangent point, horizon. Well, again, what was it you said, chocolate? What is it, no Atmo day? You don't have this straight line. That's something that doesn't exist anymore for you.
Yeah, and for the new people that might be listening and don't understand that no Atmo day thing, this is the Globers who have told us, after us asking them, where is this geometric horizon that that's supposed to be blocking boats, right? That's the story, that boats and buildings and things in the distance are disappearing behind a geometric horizon, a physical edge. Well, we've been told that we can't possibly see this edge due to us having an quote unquote atmosphere. Okay? So the thing that's supposed to prove that we live on a globe, when people are at the beach and looking at a boat and the boat's disappearing bottom up, that thing that's causing that, they tell us now that we can't see because we have an atmosphere. Can I ask a question? Has there ever been a day when we don't have an atmosphere? How is that measured? What day was that?
And careful how you phrase these things, because I'll have to jump in and say, no, we never have sphere-shaped air ever. But in their world and their paradigm of being on a globe, they've always got air in a sphere-shaped, otherwise known as atmosphere. So it's never no Atmo day for them on globe world. In reality, air isn't sphere-shaped. That's the reality. But just one more thing. When Chocolate says the physical edge, their geometry, the tangent point is describing them not having the one that blocks things. That's Earth curve, by the way. That thing they deny us being able to see because of atmosphere. That's Earth curve. They say we can't and will never see. The anti-flat Earth rebuttal is we can't and will never see Earth curve. That's the rebuttal, I kid you not.
It's surely it's the no Atmo day, chocolate, that we must have if we're going to have something that we can say, oh, but we are within 2% of R.
Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, sure.
It's paradoxical, isn't it? Because they can't measure it, but they admit that to be able to measure it, you'd have to have a no Atmo day. So that's the only way you could measure it, but they can still state that with atmosphere, they're within a certain percentage of it. And that is paradoxical nonsense.
So what you're saying, Adam, is 2% of an unknown number is what they're saying.
Well, I'm within 2% of something I can't confirm unless there's no air.
But the funny thing is that before the Black Swan, they didn't tell us that you couldn't see the geometric horizon, aka Earth curve, without the atmosphere. So when did that pop up?
I thought the whole idea
I'll tell you the
was
exact date. 1st of January 2020.
Exactly.
I thought the whole idea was that Earth curve was blocking the bottom of boats and buildings. Why would they discard that?
Now it's not, right? Just the fact that they've got an actual claim that Earth curve blocks things physically with its Earth curve geometric edginess doesn't change the fact that, look, no one's expecting to see that, okay? That's what the anti-flat earthers tell us. Just accept it. No one's expecting to see Earth curve. That's what they've told us.
To quote my boy over there, Kosho, that the geometric horizon is the horizon you wouldn't expect to see.
Yeah.
Can someone define horizon?
It's the apparent location where the sky meets the land or sea. Or you could take planar walk. Nobody's expecting to see physical geometry, end quote. Or AB science. Nobody's expecting to see the geometric horizon. Or rumpus. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. I'll just clarify again. Earth curve only exists in maths. The horizon isn't Earth curve. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in Earth curve maths is a geometric limitation, and that is not our horizon. But it's within what, 5% of the one you can see. the geometric horizon that doesn't exist and only exists in maths and you wouldn't expect to see is within 5% of the horizon we do see. It's a second horizon. A second apparent position where the sky meets the ground, because that's what a horizon is. We just don't see that apparent, meaning you can see it, position. So it's a non-apparent apparent position where the sky meets the ground that only exists in maths. That's Earth curve.
What about
And it's the non-apparent apparent position that's the one that's blocking boats and stuff. That's great.
The non-apparent position that only exists in maths that blocks things apparently in reality. Or within 5%, or is refracted the target with respect to the horizon that isn't the horizon because it's refracted also. Yeah, you've got to make a lot of different bullshit excuses when you're talking about Earth curve being the horizon, because it isn't.
Nathan.
And it is the most recent...
Yeah, go on, Brian.
Go, Brian, go.
Is the most recent black swan photograph from BLMSB 69 within 5%.
Within 5% of what?
1.5 foot observer height.
Within 5% of what? Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on you before you've got to the end. Well, sorry, carry on, Brian. Go ahead.
It's just you were stating that they say, oh, this is the horizon we see is within 5% of the actual geometric, all this rubbish. What about the black swan photographs?
Oh, no, that's not...
Just the two, just those two for BLM. Are they within 5% of something?
I'll break down what you're asking. So the claim from the anti-flat earthers is, yes, the horizon's not in the position we would expect it to be geometrically, it's refracted, and claim, according to them, often within 5% of the actual physical horizon we're not expecting to see and only exists in the maths. Brian's asking, if we take their assumption that there is a second horizon we don't see, only exists in maths, but is basically the basis of the physical geometric horizon projected up to a non-physical refracted horizon that's within a certain percentage, 5%, let's say. He's saying, is the horizon in the black swan image way beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959 if it's geometric? Is that within 5%? And the answer is no.
Nathan, please go to Master B for a photo that were compared to the other one that I sent a picture.
Same picture.
No, I know, but the one before that, I resent that one. So you can have
gotcha. Sensible horizon, got it.
Okay, now look at this. Sensible horizon is the horizontal to the observer's eye. The visible horizon, then the geographical horizon. Now go to the other picture. The sensible horizon is the horizontal to the eye. Then the dotted line is the what? Notice how they got it.
Actual horizon.
Yes, but they've got it as the visible horizon, and it's angling down. And then, of course, they've got the geographical horizon as the one here labeled horizon that no one sees.
Yeah.
And dip correction... Well, dip correction is eye level with the sea. So just between these two pictures, both from their side of the camp, you can see if you're going to establish a horizontal, what are you using to establish the horizontal? You got to use sea level.
Right. Well, there's obviously an issue here because in this depiction, surface of Earth, visible horizon is dipping down, and then geographical horizon, the one that only exists in maths, is below it. And then sensible horizon's 90 degrees to your position, if you draw your zenith. Okay, then you get to this one. They're saying that the dip correction is used with the equivalent to the horizon that doesn't exist compared to the visible horizon, but in this one, their visible horizon's the parallel plane that they're correcting based on your actual horizon, parallel to actual horizon. So it's nothing to do with the geometric horizon, and that only exists in the maths. Like Adam said when he was describing this, you can, and I've said it before as well, you can ignore everything below the dotted line. None of it's relevant. Because you've got actual horizon, so that's what we're using then. So where's this come into it? Well, it doesn't. What they've labelled in bold with horizon isn't a horizon.
Precisely. But also a double whammy, because you hear the anti-flat earther saying, look, the whole use of the section is to establish your horizontal 90 degree to your eye. Okay, fine. At sea using the natural horizon, why do you do dip? Because I need something underneath me to be parallel to that 90. Oh, welcome to Flat Earth.
As you welcome people to Flat Earth, we've just got over 100 people watching in the pre-show. It was highlighted that these streams don't necessarily make it to a great deal of people, through no fault of my own, I might add. But that is why I'm going to shout you out and say thank you very much for watching, first of all 104 or 105 of you. Please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. That's the only reason there's 100 of you watching, because people who've got here early have shared and you've clicked on it. So there we go. Please share the show on social media.
Can we just go back to that? The second, or the most recent slide, Paul, the one with visible, geographic, and sensible horizon.
Yep.
Yeah. That confuses the hell out of me. Because I said before, it does hold them to a black swan response when they invoke this, but you can use the geographic horizon with the maths and match it up. It has a purpose on a ball, but if you look at this, how do you define the angle between the observer and the visible horizon if it's just a approximation to a 7/6R geographical? Because it's still going to be in their world.
Well, you could
physical obstruction.
You could do it, but for the fact that you've got a black swan up issue. But you could calculate it, I assume. It would be lengthy.
No. This is what I'm struggling with. Even if I go into ball world, that visible horizon is subject to, it's just randomness. It just floats in the middle of nowhere, doesn't it? Like, between the sensible and the geographical. But what's going to define it?
Well, you can only do that. You can only answer that question by defining its use. So in this instance, when you look at this diagram, right, you look at their visible horizon. What are you utilising that particular horizon when you've got 3 of them labelled? What are you using it for? Well, you're using it to establish horizontal, right? And if there's an error because it's not your sensible horizon as labelled in this depiction, then you correct it to horizontal with height of eye correction, otherwise known as dip correction. But as you're saying, if you're taking it as read, that this line labelled visible horizon is actually 7/6R, middle of nowhere, could be anything. It's nothing to do with the geometric horizon. It's based on the weather, according to them. And their weather translation, when Baton switched with sphere-shaped air refraction, leaves them with an R-based 7/6 in standard form value. Well, what does that give you in terms of calculating that back into a horizontal plane to take your angle measurement? The answer is it doesn't.
No. I've just put up here, look, the metadon stuff, which includes a refracted horizon from the geometric. Now, if you're going to take that, there is the assumption then that the geometry changes due to optics, and therefore you're not measuring geometry anymore. And anybody that's ever been at sea would have known that on different days you get different visible horizons. So you can't draw a line to the visible. It becomes... It has no reference point, if you see what I mean. If you accept that it's a limitation and it's just going to limit how much or less of the geographic horizon you can see, it becomes an indeterminate amount. So you have to go back to the geographic based on observer height if you're going to be on a ball. It seems a very odd, nonsensible...
I was just about to point that out. When you say it seems a very nonsensical process to go through. Well, 10th. At any stage when you're measuring an angle off the surface by way of an elevation angle and an angle to your measured star or sun, do you do any of this? Is any of this required?
No, I even called a navigator who has a YouTube channel who puts classes on how sextants work and so forth. And I posed a question to him about what Adam just said. I said, what if the horizon, you're fogged in? I mean, not to where you can't see your hands in front of your eyes, but that horizon is much closer than on a normal day when it's clear. What do you do then? He says you just aim where you see the water, where the sky seems to meet the water. You just aim there because that's all you got to work with then. And it was an interesting answer, because what Adam is saying is that, and I've been at sea, I used to own a boat for 2.5 years. We go to Catalina Island all the time. And sometimes it was through heavy fog, and I relied on instruments. Other times it was mediocre fog and I could see enough. And other times it was clear day where I could see Catalina Island as I'm going to it. So by that answer, I could just aim where the sky seems to meet the water line of the sea, because it's flat base all the way, even if the fog is blocking it, is what the guy was telling me.
Exactly.
Is that the Earth curve moving around back and forth like that?
No.
Exactly, Chopper. That's the point. It's an optical rendering. So even on a bad day, yeah, the angles, yeah, are still the same. And it's only when you change your observer height that the angles change, and therefore the calculations required, because it's just how the observer height dip correction is just literally dealing with optical rendering in the eye. That's what it deals with, and how that slightly changes based on your position above the flat surface. Yeah, that's all it's calculating for, is just the way in which the lens of the eye has slight difference away from the horizontal.
I know we've been. I know we've covered.
Just one point before you go,
go
Ted.
on.
Sorry, just one point. For the 100 people watching, I'd normally put this in chat. Did anyone actually share the show? Because so far in the last half an hour, this has been the most information-dense show in about the last 3 months. Very good. Carry on, 10th. Please share the show.
Yeah. It's been covered, but I want to cover it again because it's important, because these two images are not from flat Earth sides. Okay, this is from their side to bolster their argument, so to speak, and look at the flaws we're finding. So in the picture where it shows the sun and it says height of eye parallel to actual horizon, keep in mind what the words are: parallel to actual horizon. So you have a parallel. What's a parallel? Well, we know what parallel is. Flat line. Now it's parallel to the actual horizon. After dip correction is a flat line as well. It can be anything else if it's parallel to it. And so what is dip then? Dip is eye level with the sea. And that's why you have a dotted line. But if you go to the next picture, that actual horizon that's here with a dotted line is referenced there as a straight angle. It's angling down. It's called the visible horizon. So when you go back and forth, you can see that how this can't work if you're going to gain a horizontal after dip is taken to get parallel to the ocean surface. That means that's two straight lines. It's devastating.
Straight lines. Thought we heard refraction for 2 years.
Well, that brings us back full circle to Adam's point, which I remember you telling me in the first time you told me, 10th, about that particular mariner. Who's like, well, what if it's foggy? What if it's a crap day? What do you look at? What do you point at? Well, whatever you've got. Meaning, if your horizon is, you're fogged in and it's, I don't know, a mile or two to the horizon, if you like, visible distance, you can only see a mile and a half. If you can see a horizon, you can use that. Doesn't matter what the weather's like. All you're doing is establishing with your, is it visual acuity? I think that's the right words, where the limit lies. And that will be parallel with the surface of the ground once you've done dip correction. That's what you need, parallel with the ground in every instance. Well, you can never achieve that if the ground's curving away from you. That's why in this particular depiction, you've got a dotted line. That's the ground. In other words, the sphere's not necessary. Yeah, when you're looking out towards the horizon, if you take this depiction and say that when you're looking out, because this would be a vast distance scale-wise, but we're going to ignore the sphere and just say when you're looking out to the horizon, you've got to correct for the fact that what you're seeing is your height above the deck. Well, you bring it down to get it parallel with the actual horizon, even if the horizon's only a couple of miles away because it's a foggy day.
Let me add something. Let me add something to this, Brian, before you go. So when I say foggy day, I don't mean foggy in the sense where you can't see a star or sun or something to sight your sextant with. We're talking about fog that's low-lying over the ocean water, and yet maybe 20 degrees, 15 degrees, 30 degrees above that, the open sky appears. I mean, if it's completely covered, you can't even sight a star.
I'm glad you dropped that in, because there's going to be some tosser in the chats that are going, oh, right, if it's a foggy day, then you can't see anything at all. How are you gonna... Yeah, Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've experienced many foggy days going to Catalina where I see the sky, say 20 degrees and higher, but I can't see anything below that because of low-lying fog. So we need to clear that.
Yeah, but fair enough. Go ahead, Brian.
You only need, thanks, Nathan. You only need, just want to say on that point, you only need to know your height above the water. That's all you actually need to know, anyway. So any of these idiots have a problem with it. There's a whole table in the almanac. Do you know what I mean? That tells you, what correction to make for them particular heights. But anyway.
Hold on. That correction's a lot more complicated than meets the eye, right, Adam?
Yes, and it's complicated if you try to look at it in terms of the way they're describing it. I'm just about to. Where should I put it in? I'll put it in War Room, and then I'll share it.
This is exciting. Sorry if you're sort of genned up because of the first half an hour of this show being so ram-packed with flat Earth proofs and globe debunkings. This next bit is neither, really. It's not a folly. It's interesting to see how we've been, not deceived even. It's just how does this actually function? Because somebody's gone to the trouble of figuring out how your optics will match up with what you're seeing and how that changes as the angle widens as you go up in altitude. Well, that's quite complex. I remember discussing it with Life is Short many years ago now. It's one of my Patrons, actually. Shout out to you, Life is Short. I still, to this day, remember that very long discussion you, me, Ranty and Red Pill had. Fascinating stuff. But the complex nature of how you correct for that to get the angle back to parallel, man, it's not a simple... It's just a simple formula, right, Adam? It's complex.
Yeah, and this is what Tenth dug out. Some descriptions from really, really old stuff where they're not discussing or trying to stick it on a ball what they're doing. They're talking about the height of the eye and how, if you can see, look, how the angles play out. You get more and more. But Brian's, I know that's messy, but hopefully that kind of just shows you what's happening with the eye and how the perversion occurs. Because as Brian said, what you got to remember is we're measuring a flat plane, but our eye is above the plane. Yet we're looking out and we're lining our eye, which we know is above the plane, to the point where perspective allows us, our straight 90-degree eye, to meet our feet, where our feet are. And that's the angle you're adjusting for, if that makes sense. Yeah? Because obviously, when you look straight and put your eye to the horizon, you're looking at the ground, but your eye isn't on the ground. It's 6 foot above it or whatever feet it is. And that's the adjustment you do. And this is why it's not just a straightforward, easy thing, because it's the cone of the eye and how that plays out. So the higher you go, the more you open up the angles and give you more opportunities to the bottom half of the image. And that doesn't play out in a directly linear way. It's a kind of curved line. As you go higher, as the angle changes, it's not just like a straight angular relationship. It's got an exponential function to it.
Right, you've got a widening of your field of view in the vertical axes, and that will simultaneously open up the amount of resolution that you can resolve with your eye, i.e. you've got two things at play. You've got the diffraction limit, which is going to form the horizon in an ideal circumstance with no weather, versus your altitude and the angle that widens as you increase your height. Well, those two things have got an interplay that leaves you with a very complex formula to figure out where your horizon will lie and how to correct it back down to ground level versus your altitude. It's fascinating stuff.
It is a folly, as you described, but it's really interesting because it's more of a hunt for the truth. And I said, and Thames took it back to the point that we've got descriptions of the cone of the eye being the function of Bowditch's tables, which is great news because, as we said, we can see the nonsense of if you try to account it for a geometric leading edge of a ball being the function you're dealing with. Suddenly, if that's all you're doing, you're no longer dealing with the function of optics of the eye. Well, that's that's the device. Remember what we're doing here. The device we're using to define level is the eye. Why we have a correction. When we don't use the eye, we've got something we know is flat, treacle, or a bubble. Yeah, we don't have to correct for it. So we're correcting the equipment we're using here, and the equipment is perverted by the height the eye sits above the flat plane that you're going to reference to.
Yeah, so when you say corrected, what's incorrect? Well, it's not flat enough. So when it's correct or corrected, it's made flat, made level.
Well, that's the whole point of parallel horizontal. You need a horizontal. I remember on the Mitchell from Australia show, the ballers came on, or anti-flat earthers, I should say, and say that the purpose of section is to achieve horizontal. And I'm saying, man, do they even know what they're saying? I mean, that is the purpose. Well, thank you. And it's parallel to the sea surface once you do dip correction, which means both of them are horizontal. I mean, it's amazing.
The Earth is flat.
Well,
so they're telling you, well, it gives you a straight line to the horizon, end quote. Right, so flat then. Not curved, not bending, not falling away from your position 8 inches per mile squared. Flat, straight, level. Yeah, that's what you need to measure these angles. And that's how they are measured and how it functions beautifully. And if it's perverted in any way, you need to correct it. Correct meaning bring it back to flat.
That brings me back to the point I was originally going to make ages back. The sensible, also known as the astronomical horizon, when they use the word horizon, they're basically linking it to the word horizontal, right? Because the two are linked at the hip. So what they're basically stating when they talk about the sensible horizon or astronomical horizon, right? They're talking about an absolute parallel to the actual surface underneath you. It's a straight line. There's an absolute parallel with another straight surface underneath you. That's what it is. And anyone who ever knew, including Rumpus, because I am convinced he knew all along. Anyone who ever knew, right, that the geometric horizon was only ever in the maths, and it was never a physical thing. And they never even, what I mean is, they never even confused something physical for it. They should be held accountable, because they have been lying non-stop.
Yeah, why do you think they're faceless, nameless trolls like Rumpus? That's why. Because to do this effectively and efficiently, you've got to lie.
Well,
reiterate that point, Brian.
Yeah.
Reiterate that point, because I think that's the important part, right? Like the same way I was saying before about how this thing that's supposed to be blocking boats and buildings in the distance, that we can't see it without atmosphere. But we've been told, right? It only exists in the math. The Earth curve only exists in math.
When if we go back, when was it? The Flat Earth conference, I think the first one, Nathan, where you and Riley turned up on the Friday and gave a quick presentation, and we were buzzing because this is pre-Black Swan. For a long time we've been arguing Isle of Man, and the ballers have set out a challenge to Riley. Well, if it is flat, you should be able to take a picture of it from 1 foot and get the Isle of Man. And Riley goes and he lays on his belly, and we're all buzzing because he does it. And the reason we're buzzing is pre-Black Swan is because they are adamant and are making the assertion that the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. Hence their assertion, you won't be able to get that same image from 1 foot. You won't be able to see any of it because Earth curve will obscure it. That was their challenge set to us. That was their statements. That was their proof. It was a ball.
Back when they claimed the horizon was Earth curve. Now, nobody's expecting to see the geometric horizon. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve.
Who claims the horizon's Earth curve? Sorry, Brian.
No, it's okay, Chocolate. I was just going to say, wasn't it Rumpus who was doing a whole 900-page presentation on refraction? Refraction. He never stopped going on about refraction because he knew all along that there was no such thing as a geometric horizon. He knew. And I'm not saying there's lots of other ballers who knew. I'm sure he didn't tell them, right? There's lots of them that never knew. But we know for definite that celestial navigation have known for a long time. And I wonder what people like Brian Cox and them would have said if you asked them.
No.
That's why he's not on the show anymore.
He might have known it, Bri, yeah? But that's not what he said, yeah? That lighthouse was looming up over the horizon. Yeah, everything was being raised over the physical edge. That's the argument they presented for.
I'll give you the quote.
I remember.
Hold on. Let's give you Rumpus's quote. The reason he's banned, why he lied or had to lie about the physical horizon. So back when he was making that claim, quote, "You know it's refracted because of its position with respect to the horizon." End quote.
Yep.
The Rumpus.
Yep.
Yeah, so he knew he was lying. The way I know he knew he was lying was because as he was scrolling through to give me that answer, Andrew Thomas Young's document flew past the screen very briefly, just for a few moments, long enough for me to know that he's got it, and therefore knew full well that the horizon wasn't blocking the Isle of Man, because the horizon isn't a geometric leading edge claim to be Earth curve, as he was arguing at the Isle of Man.
Yeah, I remember him arguing that, like, just as Adam says, that the lighthouse and all this was loomed up, right? But he wasn't clearly stating whether it was loomed up above a geometric horizon. It was loomed up. I believe that he was trying to claim that it was loomed up without saying it.
No. He didn't have to say it. It was in the maths. No. Stop. He didn't have to say it. It was there, clearly labelled horizon, marked with an X in his maths. That's what he's trying to prove. The maths is trying to prove Earth curve is getting in the way.
Yeah, but it's
not that he needs to explicitly state it. It's very much the claim. The horizon's Earth curve in their maths. That's what their claim is. They're claiming the horizon is Earth curve. It is that simple. Now, the moment you debunk it and they start telling you it isn't, they've lost. There it is, thank you, Adam, marked with an X, labelled horizon, in their physical geometric Earth curve mathematics. That's what they claim the horizon is. It's Earth curve in their maths. So when they say, let's look at the hidden value, oh, it doesn't quite match, well, let's look at the refracted value. Well, what's changing? The geometric horizon? No. What's changing is the target. And you know it's refracted, quote, because of its position with respect to the horizon, marked with an X and labelled horizon in this geometric mathematics. That's what they're claiming. It's just that simple. Well, as soon as you say, well, no, I always said the horizon was refracted, well, then you're a liar.
Yeah, but what the point I'm making, Nathan, is a lot of the other ballers didn't realise that probably that Rumpus knew the horizon that we view is not the geometric horizon. And it was never going to be. It was always in the maths. And that's why he was able to, when he was pushed to it so quickly, he said, well, it's only in the maths. Because he always knew it was in the maths. So he didn't let all the rest of them in on the gig, I should say.
Exactly.
I reckon he was trying to claim that there was a lighthouse that was refracted, that was gloomed up above a refracted horizon. And that's what his actual claim was, without ever actually...
If there's ever a paradigm shift, right, people like him will vanish. Like a puff of smoke, they'll disappear. And all the people who've actually put their name to this crap, they'll be the ones held accountable. They'll become scapegoats for the people who are furious. Well, are they going to go finding Rumpus? No, they will not. Will they find Craig McNeil? Yeah, they probably will. And they'll hold him accountable for the complete nonsense garbage that we've been lied to about. Because who else are they going to hold accountable in the anti-flat earth realm? Because all the rest of them are faceless, nameless potatoes that will vanish. Well, more fool you, the people who defend these lies. Because they are exactly that, lies. Now, it's your own due diligence that's failed you when it comes to you reasserting them. That's on you. We can't go on all the time about how it's ownership of an argument when you make it becomes your argument. Well, that's the same when you lose. When it's proven to be wrong, when you're proven a liar, still your argument. You can't just bat it off like it's nothing when you've been out there asserting it. Now, the ones who are a little bit more wise know they're lying and therefore protect themselves. Should anything go wrong, I'll vanish into non-existence. You'll be any the wiser as I walk around in my local town with my real name. Well, nothing's going to be, no skin off their teeth for them lying through their back teeth. But for all of you who've gone, oh yeah, definitely true, I'll put my name to that. That's a big problem. The very same problem we, back in 2015, 16, 17, were accused of as flat earthers. Oh, you're going to regret putting your name to this. Well, not only because society will condemn me, not because it's not true. On the other hand, if there is a paradigm change, which there may very well not be, in which case you're sitting pretty right, it's only your own cognition that we'll have to fight with.
Nathan, can I comment on this slide that Adam put up?
It's the Metabunk curve calculator, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's why I want to comment on it. Okay, you see the slides I showed you from the navigation sites earlier. So they got the eye level, which would give you your astronomical or sensible horizon, which is the horizontal you need to get a 90. They can't do that at sea unless they do dip correction, right? Because it's the only place you do dip correction. And you can see here, surface level is sea level. And in between surface level and eye level to the left, you see in blue, horizon dip. So even here, they're showing you that dip is nothing more than the height above sea level. Then they got that green X called horizon, obviously referencing the geometric horizon. Now, that doesn't belong here anymore. We've proven that because you can't get an angle off a curved adjacent. And so this is a very interesting slide because it seems to be backwards. Isn't the geometric horizon, the one with the green X, got to be before and we can't see it, and the refracted horizon is further out?
I've never noticed this before. The disclaimer's right there. You've just highlighted it. I'm just exasperated because I've never noticed surface level with a dotted line. I'd never noticed that before.
Yes,
It's right in front of my face.
There's this big purple line that doesn't match the surface and level line.
No, don't worry about that. Look over there.
Sorry, everything below.
Yeah, they made that a dotted line.
Sorry, everything below surface level and dip correction to surface level is irrelevant. It tells you right in the diagram. Surface level. What's the surface? Well, it's a flat dotted line according to this.
They obviously understand the sextant as well because the eye level and surface level are parallel lines.
My God, it's right there in the diagram the whole time.
Did you see it as Temp was talking as well? That's how I started going like that as he said it. Oh, bloody hell.
I was like, God, he spotted this. Brilliant. I'd take my hat off to you, 10th. It's the most obvious things that I've looked at this calculator thousands of times. Mad.
10th is ace.
10th is ace. I love it. I love it. The fact that we're here talking about this sort of stuff. And it's there. They're put it right there. Why? Well, because they're actually still dealing with the actual surface level, in quotes, with a dotted line. Still got to deal with that, right? Because they're going to be asserting angles, aren't they? Well, what are they going to do with their angles when they're measuring them in reality? Well, they're going to use the surface level. What's that? That's sod all to do with this sphere below. And everything to do with the ground being flat.
This would be a good time to have a chat with Mick West, wouldn't it? Because he disappeared after the Black Swan. Maybe you know exactly why.
Who?
Mick West. Mick
You must have been reading my mind, Brian, because I was going to give a shout out to Mick West.
Exactly, because not only now did he have to disappear after the Black Swan, but now with the sextant, and now that we're looking at it, because I saw that before, and I was like, surface level, I never paid it enough attention. But 10 pointed out now makes it totally obvious, you know?
They've all run off, Brian.
Hold on. Hold on.
Hold
Someone was about to poke the bear there. You've got to do it officially. Who is it that's going to nominate themselves to poke the bear in this regard? And ask Mick West about where he gets a elevation angle with a curved adjacent.
I'll do it.
Give him a good poke, Brian. Right between the ribs.
Yeah, because he knew.
They've run off from the topic was because Mick's now dealing with health issues and UFOs and stuff like that. One fact, can I be a bit catty? I was watching. I watched like Myth Vision podcast. It has some great scholars, Bible scholars on. But what the person they had on last night talking about abiogenesis, and one of the super chats saying, "I love this guy. The way he destroys flat earthers," was Professor Dave's pimping himself around now as if he's to non-suspecting people where they'll believe his pseudoscience nonsense. So he's now going around kind of mystic sites and the likes, pretending he's a proper professor still, and making out he knows all sorts of stuff and destroys flat earthers.
Not these flat
Sorry,
earthers.
I don't follow. What's this non-Professor Dave got to do with the science communicator known as Mick West?
Well, it's another one of them. The point I'm making is that they came into this field, they left with the tail between their legs, and they're out there now professing that they've destroyed the flat Earth argument, and that's why they don't deal with it anymore. Mick West being one, and
I see.
Professor Dave
So they came, they hung around, they got annihilated, and then we got censored into non-existence, and therefore they declared victory. Oh,
yes.
What a hollow victory!
But they're out there now. Still, it was noticeable last night. Ad hom, but he didn't address one point. It's just, yeah, well, I destroyed their nonsense.
That green X for horizon that references their geometric horizon. One day, they're going to say the geometric horizon is purely theoretical construct. They're going to say that, and not anything you could ever see.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smash the PayPal link, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Diagram, because you have the biggest voice because it's the biggest channel. I can send him an email and I'm going to do that, but that's the best I'll do. He may not reply. So you should call him out.
Yeah, Nathan.
Point out the black swan and point out the sexton, point out what he's showing there that he knew all along that there was no geometric horizon, that anyone, there was no horizon that anyone even mistook for a geometric horizon. He knew it was in his diagram all along.
He's got it. He did the.
Yeah, but he knows he's got no geometric horizon. He came here and told us the little R, is based on a presupposition based on the standard model. Those were his words to us. So he's already dead in the water with that.
Remember the disclaimer as well that he added after his time with Nathan. That's almost an admission that the horizon isn't the leading edge of the ball. Not accurate for observations over water very close to the horizon. Hey?
Oh. That kind
Sounds
of
like the
sucks.
globe. Sounds like the globe.
Wait a minute. What's he really saying here?
He's saying the black swan destroys it, is what he's saying.
So hang on. So not accurate for. So this
is
is
going to have a conniption.
No, conniption. Well, it's interesting. Even with that, then what's the opposite of that? Accurate over long distance over water?
It's just not accurate if you're looking for curve.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
When is it accurate is the question.
No,
it's
yeah,
just only when you
you got it, Brian.
Distances you can't see. I'm just saying it's accurate. What he's saying there, it's only accurate at distances you can't see. So you can make it up, in other words.
Well, no. Look at the English. When observations over water very close to the horizon's an apparent position that will move. How do you get closer to it?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I'm looking at it, reversing the argument. Very accurate for observations over water far, meaning you're far from the horizon. Well, thank you. The sextant says you need a flat baseline. Thank you. It doesn't make any sense.
But I think what Adam said stands. Like, what do you mean close to the horizon? Wait, who's close to the horizon? Please show me that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what he means.
How do you get close to an apparent position?
I know what he's saying. What he's saying is, for the horizon to be far from you, you must go up high. That's the only way to get it to go far. Like weather will do it too. But for any given day, for the horizon to be any great distance from you, you must go to a height. And when you go up to that height, then you can beg the question that what you're looking at is a geometric horizon. That's what he's saying without saying it.
Ah, the one that Rumpus says only exists in the map. Oh, okay. That checks out.
Yeah, but you can take a dip angle, a big dip angle.
And what instrument would you use to observe?
Well, you'd use the sextant.
And what do you need for the sextant?
A flat earth.
Okay, it goes nowhere here.
Temp. So that's the point with the sextant, isn't it? Look. So what he's saying is when you're close to the water, you can't use the sextant as well because nothing will be accurate. So he's that disclaimer is saying that the horizon doesn't render correctly when you're close to the water.
Does that also mean when you're on the water?
Yeah.
Well, no. Adam's point here is that when the horizon, like if you're shooting on a lake, because you're not on the ocean and you want to use, instead of an artificial horizon where you have something contained in a pan or something surrounded so there's no agitation of wind, and you do an artificial horizon. Sometimes in the mountains, if you have a large enough lake that's a mile, 2-3 miles long, you can treat that as that. But if it's shorter distance, they have these other tables you got to go through for corrections. Is that what you're saying, Adam?
No, I'm just implying that he's saying, look, not accurate for observations over water. What's not accurate? He's saying that the position where the horizon would render, therefore your curvature inferences you draw from that won't be correct. Well, that's the exact purpose of how we use the sextant, is that horizon being correct and rendering. Now, it's not, what he's saying is it's not rendering as a ball. Optic.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
It's an admission that of Black Swan to me, that his thing doesn't work low down. It only works at, I think Brian might have said it, at some intermediary areas where the optics and the horizon kind of match up with R, which is what they always say. You've got to go a bit higher now, haven't you? Because there's less variance. It's harder because you can't see so far. You can't demonstrate it as well. This is why the beauty of coming down and seeing so far absolutely destroys it. So it's just an admission that the fantasy R that it's all based on only works at certain altitudes where you can see further, when then the maths would match reality. But it certainly doesn't match reality.
So we can only say it's accurate when it matches their presupposition, and when it doesn't, see disclaimer. Globers are losers, man. Y'all gotta give any Globers in Discord. Seriously, what's going on here? It's too quiet over there. Where are you ball defenders on this?
They've gone extinct, Chocolate. You didn't know that?
Yeah, I know, but I gotta give a shout out to them. Like, hey, guys, still alive? What's going on?
No, just atheists. That's all that's left is atheists, bro. No Globers.
Oh man.
There was one that said he came in, but he's I don't see him.
What McQuest is doing with that statement is he's allowing all the other Globers or anti-flat earthers who don't know any different, right, to go up high and look down and make a dip to the visible horizon, right, the only real horizon, and then claim that dip has something to do with the geometric horizon. And that's what he's doing. He's allowing them to do that in a funny kind of way. He's stating, you must, without saying it, if you go up high, you get a dip, and then you can believe you're on a globe. Even though that dip, he knows, is only going down to the actual horizon, which has nothing to do with a geometric horizon. They can then add in 7/6R once with their dip and come up with, globe, without ever having a geometric horizon ever measuring R.
Yeah, it checks out.
The thought I had is, if I'm higher up looking at a further distance, am I looking through less or more atmosphere than I am if I'm looking down at a shorter distance if I'm at sea level? Which is it?
Well, Paul, the thing about it is that it doesn't really matter, because they're all, even Mick West is stating that the horizon you're going to see looking down at is just a horizontal plane. The geometric horizon is some mathematical thing below that. No matter what, you only do ever, regardless of what refraction you get high or up high or down low, the horizon you see is only ever an apparent horizon. It's only ever the real horizon. It's never the geometric horizon.
But for them, the geometric horizon is apparent. That's what their horizon is. We've just debunked it as being Earth curve. But the geometric horizon for a sphere-believing fundie is the apparent horizon. That's redundant because horizon, by definition, is the apparent location where the sky appears to meet the ground or sea. So therefore, saying the apparent horizon is claimed to be the geometric horizon. Well, the geometric horizon is simply what a globe-believing person believes the horizon is. A geometric limitation.
And that's when the anti-flat earther steps in and tells you, hey, that apparent position that blocks boats and buildings in the distance, nah, you can never see that. Why would you even expect to see that?
But for years, just before Adam goes there with his presentation, for years they've been going up, right, up to high elevations, and even from airplanes, trying to take a dip angle of a couple of degrees to the horizon, and then adding 7/6R and claiming globe, without ever viewing any geometric horizon. And even the people doing it didn't realise, most of them, 95% of them didn't even realise that they weren't, by adding in 7/6R, that you've never viewed any geometric horizon. The horizon you're bringing your angle to is just the actual real horizon. And adding 7/6R means that you've never seen the geometric horizon, means nobody ever measured this radius. So that's all they've been doing.
I want to read out this cartoon. Is it Arwin that's presented this?
Yeah, it's me.
Can you just do it before Adam goes with his presentation? Because it's
All right,
fairly
all right.
swift.
Behold our latest strategy against those pesky flat earthers. The horizon isn't geometric. We don't expect to see Coriolis deviation. Are you sure this is going to help us prove the ball Earth? Ball Earth?
Love it.
Very good. It's not my presentation. It's Temps. He's just posted it, so I just popped it up for him because you're on screen.
No, I was sending it to you for research, but if you want to go ahead. I mean, you're Johnny on the spot here.
Well, to be fair, it's just describing it. It's basically, it's quite interesting because it's making a statement of...
You're not presenting, Adam. Arwen's still presenting, just to let you know.
No, you have to click on him. You are presenting, and you're out to the audience too.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just quickly skim reading it, but you see here, look, it's the minimum distance for a good sea horizon is D in navigator's minutes, must be greater than the square root height in feet. So again, you see it's mentioning that, look, if we're going to do this, there's got to be a certain distance for it to apply to. Now, he's only stating distance. He's not saying geometry of the ball. But it's still implying a distance. And this is the point of distance short of the horizon. So it's a calculation after that. But again, what it's saying fundamentally is you need a certain amount of distance to render a horizon. So it's saying.
Alan, may I direct you to the second thing I sent you? That has a table. Maybe that might help. The second one. Not that one, the other one.
This one.
No, not that one. The other one sandwiched in between. That's the last one I sent you. There you go.
There you go. I'd have to get my head into this but there we go, look. So it becomes distance is d equals 1.169 times the square root of the observer height, look. So they're using that function there. But again, look, what? What's that number? It's not 1.225, is it? So the dip short of the horizon isn't dealing with ball geometry. That's what that says to me. Without going into any other detail, if you're going to be dealing with ball geometry to calculate whether or not you're going to render it or not, then you need the ball maths in there, which is 1.225, not 1.169. So that's all I'd say. But then you're just making adjustments, I assume, based on how far you can see. If you know you're 3 mile offshore or whatever, then you know that that's going to be that far away, I assume. There you go, look, 3. And then I assume these are your heights, 10th. So there's your adjustment in arc minutes.
Like the good old days, there's 10 of us on the panel. Hey, Paul.
Oof.
Still going to need a flat
Paul,
baseline.
what's up, man?
Yeah.
Right, Adam?
Yeah, but that's what
You're
it's
trying to indoctrinate us with math squares.
Got that one more time. Hey, Paul. No, it didn't work.
Still a baller, Paul?
Paul's not a baller. Come on.
Come on, he said he went back to the ball. I remember. I don't forget nothing.
We're not
You
getting
didn't
any
say
sound
that.
out of him anyway, so just so you know, Paul, you might have to fiddle with your settings.
Are you
Neil
able to
deGrasse
receive
Tyson.
messages, Nathan? Or are
Say-
you still can't receive private messages on Discord, Nathan?
It's not that I can't receive them. I just don't look at them.
Okay, well, I sent you some. I guess I can figure out another way to get them to you, but I just wanted to
That's like
ask.
saying. So,
Uh-huh.
let me get it straight. You've nailed your postbox shut, so nothing comes through. No. Well, I've sent you a letter.
Yeah, already did. Already sent it. Sorry, I guess it's just going to be returned to center any minute now. It's just going to come back to me. Yep.
Send it to Master B.
Pillbox isn't in Master B.
Oh,
He's
the
not
good old
trusted.
days.
Nathan, I'm putting together a presentation of all the books that I've purchased during the last, year plus. So, well, 2020 to 22 years, 2-year plus. I'll send you a text when I'm ready to share it. I'd like to do it on a live show if it's all right.
Oh, definitely. Be a pleasure. Thank you for letting me know.
All right. Yeah, I'm just putting it together. I've got to.
Yeah, we hear you now, Paul. Yeah, brilliant.
Hello, everyone. For 10th man, just hello.
Hello.
What's up, Paul? How you been, brother?
Hey, buddy.
Hello, Saul.
I'll tell you guys later, but it's had a second round of COVID. But I'm doing okay.
Okay, we'll get to you. I'm sure you've joined for a reason. Yeah, whenever you're ready, Sense. I mean, I'm very excited for that because I know you kind of wanted to ease into doing the presentations, then you ended up being sort of forced into doing one because you ended up in debate over it. And then Bob came in, and then it's never actually reached the point where we've gone, officially, here's my presentation about the last 2 years and all the books I've read and all the information that I've gathered. So that would be really exciting. I'm very pleased to hear it.
Well, actually, I'm sending you a picture of what's to come. You should get it right now. Any second. 97%, 100%. You should get it. Master B.
Yeah.
You see it?
Stack of books.
You got it.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam.
Bowditch is the biggest. That's the guy we were talking about. I've got earlier. I just want to drop this in because that's the biggest book there by the looks of things. And that's when we were talking about, well, I hate calling it a folly, but it kind of is. figuring out how, dip correction versus angle of visual acuity versus height all works. And there's the book, right? Bowditch is right there at the bottom.
Well, that's one of four Bowditch. There's a Bowditch. I think that's a 1965 Bowditch. And then in the middle, you see two of them. The Practical Navigator. It goes to, and the one underneath that you can't read, that's a Bowditch. And then I've got the 1802 on my computer as a free download, and so does Adam. So we have the original Bowditch. We got all the subsequent publications, and they just keep getting wider and bigger because they keep adding things. So I've gone to see what they've added. It takes time, of course. Then my love is the two that say Air Navigation 1 and 2, as you can see there just above the floor. Those two are actual Air Force books that go through the bubble sextant and how to get that horizontal when you're in an airplane and why it works. There's many of these books that, so what I'm trying to put together is show the book, go to one page of the book to show where I got some of this stuff, and then to realize that it wasn't just watching a video like Danny Faulkner did and say, see, there it is. No, I bought these books. It's hundreds of dollars. One of these books is $80. Just one of these books.
I was going to ask, that was going to be my next question, because to me, I was going to guess, I was going to say about $500 worth of books there. Am I right, as a rough guess?
Well, easily, because there was one we bought online that Adam and I needed for the derivation. There's all kinds of other paraphernalia that goes with this. I bought a sextant. I bought an 810 bubble sextant. No, we're over $1,000 easy. $1,500 probably altogether.
And these are flat Earth navigation books, Tent?
No,
none of these are flat Earth navigation books.
Oh, okay.
By the same token, just to correct that statement, all of them are flat Earth navigation books.
Exactly. They are, but they're not. But they are.
All books are flat.
No, that's not what we mean, Arwin. Pillbox, just one sec. No, that's not what we mean. It's not like flat maps. That's not what he means. He means the descriptions used of acquiring elevation angles, etc., is flat Earth in its application, and that's what they're describing in these books. However, the reason the preface is then added that, well, they're not, is because at various points they'll reference globe, because these are all written by globe-believing people when they're describing the flat plane they're navigating on. And that's what they're describing, despite the fact they occasionally drop in a sphere diagram. Go ahead, Pillbox.
Nah, this is Issa. What
up? That's Issa. Sorry, Nathan. I know.
What up, Nathan? What up, brothers? Yo, I was just wondering about the book.
Issa. What up, homie?
What's up, brother?
Oh, that needs an introduction. Hold on, Issa. So this is Issa, and Issa, to my knowledge, was one of the first flat earthers to actually highlight a circle of equal altitude argument 4 years ago. So shout out to you, Issa. I'm sure this is all very familiar to you.
I love it. I love it. I'm just like, yay, all the fucking way, dude. I'm out in the sidelines like, get him, kid. You know what I mean? Like dude, the way you've broken it down too has been so great. Like, the way you've explained the curving adjacent or the baseline. I just thought that was hilarious. Anyway, I was gonna ask 10th Man about books, because if you look, there's Nathaniel Bowditch's American Practical Navigator, right? Maybe you have it.
Yeah. I got 4 of them.
You have it. right on. Nice. What I had a 1980 edition that I was borrowing from a friend of mine who was actually a captain at the time, and this was years ago. And I remember, talking about flat Earth, and he was like, "That's stupid." So I didn't really go too far. And then I asked him, I was like, "How do you find your latitude using Polaris?" And he didn't know, which I found fascinating. Anyway, that book led me to this thing, is that there's like a book that book was built off of.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that story?
Yes. Let me give it to you in the summary, and I may be off because I can't recall the name, but the research that I found out was Nathaniel Bowditch, however way you want it, great mathematician. There was another book that an Englishman put together with tables to use the stars, the moon, the sun. and he
Yeah.
found some errors. He found some errors in them. So he wrote his own tables. The publisher of the other book from the Englishman saw Bowditch's tables were more precise than the Englishman's. Then the publisher hired Bowditch to be the new guy that writes the tables, and that's how he got his start.
Right, and then they actually changed it, and they instead of making it a co-authorship, he was the strict author. Because I know for a couple of years, I think it was even. So it was
Correct.
like, but what I found fascinating, and especially in the 1980 book that I had, the edition, like I forget what edition it was, but it's like, it's so great because it just jumps right how we proved that with the moon landing, in the introduction, about whatever. So I was kind of fascinated with this notion that if you look around the time, when was that book written? It was like 1880s, 1890s, sometime in that range, if I'm not mistaken, right?
1802.
What was it?
1802. The first
1802. Okay, right. So like I'm looking at it like it's weird because like I don't know if you know the story of like Joshua Slocum. He traveled. He's one of the first dudes to ever circumnavigate the globe or whatever. So whenever people say, "Oh, nobody thought the Earth was a flat," this guy Joshua Slocum actually is one of the first people. He was from Nova Scotia. Couldn't even fucking swim. Traveled on his boat by himself, solo. One of the first solo missions I think around the Earth. And he stopped in South Africa and he had a debate with the Boer Republicans president about the shape of the Earth. And the Boer Republic thought it was flat. And he was trying out there set that it was a globe. Anyway, but what makes it interesting is that around that time, like I feel like they took what could have been flat Earth lingo from the Englishmen. And they made their big advancement on navigation in that time frame. So, like, that's why they overtook, like, because I would imagine the navigators of old, they were using their hands and sticks. Like, I don't know. They were Christians. They were biblical to a certain extent, right? They thought the earth was flat. And I wonder if the literature isn't in that previous book. And you were bringing up books, and I'm on the hunt for that book.
I ran across Slocum's name before. I didn't do a detailed research on it though, but I only
reference him because he was in 1908 or something, like trying to, debating the shape of the Earth in South Africa on his trip around the Earth to prove that it was a ball. I think it was a big to-do.
Let me give you a little history, and I'm just going through it quickly here. So Bowditch went to sea, and I'm reading right out of the book, at age 21. It was as a captain's writer, and just let me carry on. So Bowditch went to sea at 21. It was as a captain's writer and nominal second mate. Then it jumps down a couple of paragraphs. To Bowditch, the mathematical genius, computation of lunar distances was no mystery, of course, but he recognized the need for an easier method of working them in order to navigate ships more safely and efficiently. Jump down. John Hamilton Moore's The Practical Navigator was the leading navigational text when Bowditch first went to sea, and had been for many years. So that was the Englishman, John Hamilton. Then what happened was The Practical Navigator had reached Edmund Blunt, a publisher at Newburyport, Massachusetts. At Blunt's request, Bowditch agreed to correct Moore's book. The first edition of the New Practical Navigator was published in 1799 with correction of the errors Bowditch had found to that time. Of course, he found more later, and with some additional information. The following year, the second edition was published with additional corrections. Bowditch eventually found more than 8,000 errors in the work. However, and it was finally decided to completely rewrite the book and publish it under his own name. In 1802, the first edition of the New American Practical Navigator by Nathaniel Bowditch was published. There's a brief history.
Yeah, man. And that book, that Moore book is the one. I think that's a good book for us to just be on the hunt for. Word to the wise.
Bowditch had more than 8,000 errors.
Well, right, because what if he's thinking of, what if in his description he's like, knowing that the sun is this distance away, which contradicts all the later opinions. I wonder what his quote unquote corrections are.
You know what I mean? You know what?
It's a good question, because it would be about the sort of time frame that some people speculate that there's the introduction of this new religion. You know, that's about that sort of time frame. So presumably, if you've got it all described on a flat plane without any reference whatsoever to sphericity, then you've got to correct that. Well, you rewrite it, describe it as just being errors. People will assume it's calculations, as opposed to introduction of new rhetoric and sphere belief into some of the charts and some of the descriptions and diagrams. And that's what we've got. We keep disclaiming how they're not flat Earth books, right? Well, why aren't they when they're describing how you do it on a flat plane? Well, that's going to take a lot of geometric consideration, isn't it? Well, about the time that these changes are taking place, well, changing from what to what? It'd be nice to see.
I was going to say the
from one
same exact
mathematical
thing.
construct to another, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
I was going to say the exact same thing, and they do the same thing with maps. They make a flat map based on a globe, and then they say it does errors because it's not a globe. It's only errors because it's taken from a globe, not because there's errors because it isn't a globe.
Or maybe not. Maybe those translations didn't work because they didn't translate into the globe rhetoric, and then having a way of having the maps work functionally with angles measured off a flat plane, but be claimable as projections off a sphere, might mean there's someone else in the mapping history that's got 8,000 errors to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I mean, though. But their claim is that there's errors because the maps are flat when they should be a globe. This is what they've always claimed. When the error is the only errors are there is the fact that they're trying to keep them attached to a globe instead of actually just making an actual flat map, which is what we experience.
You remember when they said? You remember when they said the sun was? And it's changed, obviously many times. Someone put a GIF on it, but they said the sun was 3 million miles away. Now, what did they say the sun is? What errors did they find, and how did that change everything? Well, it didn't change anything. You know why? Because it's all a ruse. Because what I found out in all these books is they have a little bit of truth and a bunch of theoretical ideas of a globe model, and they kind of make them all, groove together. But here's the problem: you got a sextant, which is an angle measuring device, and it can't work if the baseline is curved. So it's over right there. This is such a quick death because they all point to the sextant on how to navigate, and the tool cannot work with a curved adjacent.
Yep, it requires a flat baseline. That's a flat Earth proof. But with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!